Next thing I want to talk about is Biden's absurd immigration plan. All right. And how far to the right this country has moved. All right. I just think that this immigration plan is a complete farce, an utter joke, an insult, honestly. And it just shows how far to the right this country has swung. All right. So this is what you're voting for, the lesser of two evils mentality. This is what it's led to. I'm sorry, however you feel about it, this is what it's brought us to. All right. We've been doing the lesser of two evils. I did lesser of two evils for all of my voting life, right? I did lesser of two evils. I was told this is what you got to do. And this was the end result of the voting for lesser of two evils. All right. Whatever we want to say, one of the end results was Donald Trump. And now we get things like this. And I just want to show you how far this country has moved to the right. And it's made very obvious by Biden's immigration plan. So, Biden recently proposed an 8-year path to citizenship for immigrants. I'm just going to say that once more in case it doesn't immediately hit you. Joe Biden has proposed an 8-year path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. Okay. Tell me if something about 8 years stands out to you. Like what is it about 8 years that sounds a little bit off to you? Anything? What happens in 8 years? Oh, I know. It's almost guaranteed that in the next 8 years, we will change leadership, in the White House. There is an almost certainty, because of the way that the pendulum swings in the United States, that within the next 8 years, Republicans will take back control of the White House, Congress. There's a very real chance that Republicans, if what happened historically happens in the next election, Republicans are going to take the House and the Senate, all right, in the next election. If history, continues on the same course, right? If history repeats itself, we're going to see what Obama called the shellacking of 2010 occur. All right. So, you get the opposition party gain seats in Congress when, in midterm elections. That's just what happens in this country historically. So to expect anything less, I think, would be absurd, especially when you think about the level of crisis that we're facing, what Joe Biden has inherited for an economy, and the fact that it's going, we're going to have economic and public health pain in this country. We're gonna top 500,000 deaths from COVID in the next, they expect by March that we're going to hit, or end of February, that we're going to hit, 500,000 deaths from COVID. So over the first, I think it was 9 months of the pandemic, over the first 9 months, the rate was about 100,000 every 3 months. And then in the past month, we've had 100,000 in a single month. And now they're projecting another 100,000 in a single month again. All right. So, and we're definitely on pace for that. All right. So to hit that before, just shy of 4,000 deaths per day, you're talking about around, 30 days to get to 100,000 deaths. So, Biden's 8-year path to citizenship for immigrants. I mean, this is absurd because, one, it's very likely that Republicans are going to take back control and be able to undo this, right? So by whatever means, they're going to get back control of the Congress and be able to do it through Congress. If he does it somehow through an executive order, which not going to happen, then he would then the next president could just undo it with an executive order, right? If he does it by executive order. And I just want to show you, by comparison, our memory in this country is unfortunately short, and probably there's some young folks watching this that maybe aren't familiar with Ronald Reagan's presidency. And so I just want to show you this article about Reagan's legacy on immigration. All right. Because this is Ronald Reagan, Republican Ronald Reagan, who brought, crack to black neighborhoods. All right. Reaganomics, right? The trickle up guy. This was his take on immigration. All right. And this is what he did for immigration. All right. Wasn't an 8-year plan. I'll tell you that much. All right. Ronald Reagan, 1986. All right. This is called A Reagan Legacy. This is an NPR, A Reagan Legacy, Amnesty for Illegal Immigrants. All right. This was published about 10 years, just over 10 years ago, 2010. All right. And it's talking about a Reagan legacy, amnesty for illegal immigrants. There's his beautiful face there. The Republicans love to talk about their hero, Ronald Reagan, right? And so here, I'll just read from this. This quote under the Ronald Reagan picture here, I think is a good one. It says, this is a quote from Reagan. It says from 1984, all right, 3 years before I was born. 1984, Reagan says, "I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and lived here, even though sometime back they may have entered illegally." All right. So that's 1984, Ronald Reagan, the Republican, saying that he believes in the idea of amnesty. All right. Amnesty is snap your fingers. You are now legal. All right. That is what amnesty, and you are now documented essentially, right? You are no longer considered an illegal, by this country's standards. That's what amnesty is. He believes that even if people entered illegally, it's a Republican. All right. And just think about where the Republican Party is now. They're like, build that wall, kill those immigrants, right? Family separation. We got to separate the families. As the nation's attention turns back to the fractured debate over immigration, it might be helpful to remember that in 1986, Ronald Reagan signed a sweeping immigration reform bill into law. It was sold as a crackdown. There would be tighter security at the Mexican border, and employers would face strict penalties for hiring undocumented workers, which I'm totally okay with, punishing corporations and employers, not punishing the people, right? Because it's not their fault if they're desperate and they get, exploited into this situation. Not their fault. We don't need to punish them. Punish the corporations, punish the employers. I'm all for that, and I'm totally cool with getting a bipartisan agreement based on things like that. All right. So we can certainly find people on the right that are okay with something like that, where, okay, well, we're going to punish the companies that bring in undocumented workers. Totally cool with that. So it says, but the bill also made any immigrant who'd entered the country before 1982 eligible for amnesty, a word not usually associated with the father of modern conservatism. In his renewed push for so they're talking about, Obama at this time, because this is during Obama. Right now we got Biden. Not a big difference here, right? They say, part of the aversion to the word amnesty for Republicans is due to what is widely seen as the failure of Reagan's 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act. However, one of the lead authors of the bill says that unlike most immigration reform efforts of the past 20 years, amnesty wasn't the pitfall. This is a Republican who was the lead author of the bill who says amnesty was not the pitfall of the bill. He says, we use the word, quote, legalization. Former Wyoming Senator Alan K. Simpson tells NPR's Guy Raz, and everybody fell asleep lightly for a while, and we were able to do legalization. So they're just like, listen, we just called it something different. All right. We didn't say amnesty. We called it legalization. Sure. If they like that word, I don't care. Okay, leftists, I don't care. Do we want to use the word legalization? I don't like the word illegal, but you know what? If the term legalization gets the Republicans to look the other way while we help, make it this country a more just country for immigrants, then hey, I'm all for it. Well, I'll call it legalization. I don't give a damn. All right. I don't care what you call it. All right. The law granted amnesty to nearly 3 million illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, yet was largely considered unsuccessful because the strict sanctions on employers were stripped out of the bill for passage. So see what they did there? This is how the Republicans ended up, they don't want to punish corporations, and the Democrats don't want to do it either. Let's be real, punish corporations in any way for their actions. And so they actually took out the sanctions on employers, which would have actually been good. I'm fine with that. Sanction the employers, punish the employer, and make it so that if they're gonna if they're gonna use immigrant labor, make them do it through legal channels or whatever, and make sure that they can't do it in a way that they're able to exploit these people, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're exploiting these undocumented people because they know they can't report workplace violations and things like that, and workman's comp issues or anything like that. They don't have the same rights. They can pay them under the table. They can pay them less money. So they're exploiting those people. All right. And so anything that helps people avoid exploitation, I'm fine with that. And I'm in favor of that. So, and let's be real, on the left, we got to make some compromise with the right on some of these things if we're going to pass, some legalization efforts. So you got Ronald Reagan, the Republican Ronald Reagan, doing straight up amnesty and granting 3 million people, legalized status in the country. in 1984. All right. In 1986, I think the bill was signed. And so, but and going stretching back as far as 1984, right? And just said, hey, if you came into the country before 1982, 4 years prior to signing this bill, you're good. You're all set. All right. That would be like just like amnesty to all the DACA recipients. Obama didn't do that. Obama didn't give amnesty to all of DACA people, right? What happened to DACA? Obama didn't do amnesty, right? He didn't go as far to the left as Ronald freaking Reagan, right? He wouldn't go as far to the left as Ronald Reagan. And what happened to DACA? Donald Trump got into power and he completely essentially ripped up DACA and put all of those people's lives into limbo at that point, right? So he didn't grant those people amnesty. And then a Republican, a far right, fascist, according to some people, some people would say fascist, neo-fascist, proto-fascist, whatever terminology, reactionary, right? A right-wing reactionary got into power and completely undid what the little BS reform that Obama made, right? And so we can't play games with these people's lives, all right? That you can't leave people in 8 years of uncertainty. That's not actual. You don't care about these people. If you're gonna put them up for an 8-year path to immigration, like that's some sort of, is that supposed to be progress? We're literally to the right of Ronald Reagan, and we're supposed to look at that and hail Joe Biden and his progressiveness. This is supposedly the most progressive president in U.S. history. That's who they build as the most progressive administration in U.S. history. The dude who wants to give these undocumented immigrants an 8-year path to citizenship. What, 8 years? I mean, who knows what's going to happen in 8 years? You don't really care about those people. If you're not willing to say amnesty, all right, and call it whatever you want to call it. I don't care. We can use whatever flowery language gets Republicans to look the other way. Legalization, all right? Let's call it legalization. We are going to legalize the 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. Let's legalize them, all right? No more having to, shove these people into the shadows where they're more likely to be exploited and oppressed, all right? Whenever you push people into the shadows, it just allows them to be further exploited and oppressed, all right? And we should not be accepting of any system that allows that to happen. So I just want people to be outraged by Joe Biden's ridiculous, absurd, insulting, disgusting proposal on immigration. This is unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And he needs to do better than this. All right. What I want to see as a leftist is talk about real amnesty. I want to see some talk about some real amnesty. Or again, I don't care what language you want to do, as long as at the end of the day, that's what gets done, right? So you can talk about legalization if you want to. I'm fine with that. Talk about legalization. And let's talk about legalizing these people within the next 4 years, because that's all that you're guaranteed, Joe Biden. Okay. So any plan that stretches beyond 4 years, and at this point, you got 3 years and 3.99 years at this point, all right? Because you're already days into your administration. So you don't even got 4 years. So I don't want to hear about any plans that stretch beyond 4 years, because that is not a serious plan that is guaranteed to be fully implemented, all right? Because in all likelihood, in 2 years, you're going to have Republican control of the Congress, and you're not going to have the ability to, block those sort of measures. But at least Joe Biden will have veto authority for those following 2 years. And so you can only guarantee, you have to pass the legislation in the next 2 years, and then you have to make sure that it completely takes full effect within the next 4 years, or it's not real, it's not legitimate, and we should be extremely angered by something like this. All right. So this is not a progressive or a left-wing proposal. This is a far right-wing proposal for immigration reform. And it's a total joke. And it's an unacceptable starting point for immigration reform. This is your starting point. So what? We're going to let the Republicans now negotiate to what? 10 years, 20 years? Like, who are we kidding? Like, who are you joking with? Like 8-year immigration. So whatever. I had to clear that one out because that was absurd. And I wasn't going to let Biden get away with that one. I hope to dig some more into it, but I just wanted to make sure that it got that level of coverage up to this point. All right. So, whoosah. All right. That one really pissed me off when I saw it. As soon as I saw 8 years, I was just like, are you effing kidding me? 8 years. So, all right. Do we have any? Okay. Tammy says, Biden's trying to claim credit for pretending to care about undocumented immigrants with his pathetic proposal. He's just trying to push the problem off until he's no longer in office. He said, Not my problem. Yes, that is a perfect point. And that this is just kicking the can down the road, right? This is the kickingest of the can down the longest road I've ever heard of in my life, right? This is worse than Elizabeth Warren's so-called Medicare for All plan. That was really a really bad public option in disguise, right? What Up America says, would you trade stronger border security for a speedy amnesty legalization? Yes, like that's fine. If we got to make trade-offs like that, I'm not all that concerned if we're making trade-offs like that. As a leftist, of course, we'd like to see other reforms come into play, like decriminalizing drugs so we can end the war on drugs that creates creates the necessity for these people to have to flee their countries, right? It's our war on drugs here that is largely fueling these crises in the refugee crisis, right? So that's what's fueling it, our war on drugs, and our BS, NAFTA and free trade agreements that are really just unfair trade agreements, right? That disadvantage workers, advantage corporations and employers. And so I would absolutely be fine with something like saying stronger border security if we are going to provide legalization to all the undocumented workers. And then I would like to see that go hand in hand with some serious efforts to decriminalize drugs in the country, decriminalize sex work, decriminalize drugs, so that we, legalize even, so that we can end the drug trade and the war on drugs that has really exacerbated the refugee crises in Central and South America to the United States, right? Central America, sort of, right? So yes, I would be in favor of that, as well as, again, like things that punish employers, right? Like those protections should have gone into things like free trade agreements already. So I'm totally cool with things that say we will punish employers for bringing in undocumented workers. They're the ones that really have the power and therefore the accountability in that situation. Please, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, share this out on social media. Appreciate you and appreciate that.